There we go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening around the world. My name is Doug Brunke. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Chamber. We're here with Rutherford Pascal. We're talking about how to be a better leader in these wildly epic change and dynamic times. And I say wildly that could be an understatement because it just seems like just when you think it couldn't get crazier, the world puts another twist in it. It's just like unbelievable. Like, what's going on in this world all around us? How do we create some stability in our lives when there's chaos all around us? Epic is probably one part of it. And maybe it's a polite way of saying chaotic world, right? It's like just amazing. And so, how do we be better leaders going forward? And when I asked Rutherford what he'd like to talk about today, he suggested a topic that I thought was perfect because one of the things that's making the world very dynamic, and I'll be polite there, is artificial intelligence and AI. And we've been talking about that at Global Chamber for years, and especially the last couple months when the article came out that said something big is happening that blew up the internet about a month or so ago. Something big is happening. It's happened. AI is here, and it's it's coming faster than anything else in history and changing everything in such a dynamic way. And so why not change leadership? And so that's what we're going to be talking about today, not just like how it's changing leadership, but how can we leverage AI for better leadership. And so Rutherford Pascal of Glasswall's leadership is an extraordinary leader himself. He's had a career in the big pharma industry and has already been a leader. He's now coaching and guiding other leaders to be more effective in their leadership and their influence. We're very fortunate to have him both as a member and as a speaker here in this presentation today and in this roundtable because we do would prefer this to be more of a roundtable. I'll be offering up some questions. I encourage you to be involved, put your information in the chat area, raise your hand, interrupt, uh, unmic yourself and ask questions. Let's make it a dynamic conversation. It's always better when we're able to do that, and that's certainly our intent today. Rutherford is based in Phoenix, Arizona, and you all are based where you are, and we're doing this conversation virtually. So jump in. Happy to have you. The first question I have for you, Rutherford, and by the way, thank you, and thank you for the Northern Lights. It's very mesmerizing and hypnotizing in a very positive way. I'm wondering, you suggested this topic, and so why? How do you define the relationship between AI and leadership? And is AI a tool, a coach, or something else entirely?
Yeah, so it's funny because AI is all in the news. It's everything. Every you can't have a conversation with people, without talking about AI. It comes up constantly. And so leadership is something we should talk about with AI as far as how to use it properly. And Doug, you said the exact right phrase. How do you leverage AI for it to be a better leader, better leadership, grow your team, think about the future? And it's all about how to properly use this thing. So I've never been a person or as a leader who looks at tools and thinks they're bad or they're negative. Every single thing we have can be negative. I look at this and I just go, huh, how can we use this to be better? And that's what I really want to talk to people about. If you look back in history of things that have evolved, there was always been some trepidation. There's always been people who think that it's going to ruin whatever, right? And it actually never comes out that way. There's always negativity. There's always a part of it that we have to work on is 5, 10, 20%, but 80% of it is spectacular. I'll tell you a quick story. So when the personal computer came to vote, my wife said to me, I will never use a personal computer regularly. Never, never. I don't see a use for it. There's nothing I think I would do with it. And, and then we went a year or two, um, and then I bought one. And the reason that I bought one is I bought one so if anything bad happened to me in my career, the job hunting prospects could be faster. So that was the actually major reason in my head to figure out the downsides and it happened. So I bought this computer, right? And then my wife started using it, and then she started putting all the bills on it, all the automatic pay. So now every morning my wife gets up. The first thing she does is she goes on the computer. And that's been happening for the last 20 plus years, right? And so I think it's the same type of thing with AI. It's right now it's not a novelty. People are starting to grow, but people have to understand how to leverage it, how to use it for in their situation to make them more efficient, to make them better, to get on the mundane things, and how do we become more human, and how do we do things that we want to do, and that's better. So that's what I would say.
What's the biggest misconception that leaders have using AI on a daily basis or in their own development?
So to me, the biggest misconception is this too, right? So it depends on which side of the road you're on. It's the biggest misconception to me is that you have to it's going to replace you as a leader, or it's going to stop you from thinking, right? That's a huge misconception as leaders. We don't see it as a tool. You mentioned tool before. To me, it's a tool, right? And if in fact we don't understand that it can help us think differently. I mean, if you've ever used any of the tools and you put in a few questions, AI will come up with things that you would not have ever thought about, because we have a history of thinking in certain ways. And if you go back and you put like, could you answer it in the way that Doug Brenke would answer it? Could you answer it in the way that Beckman would answer it? And it'll give you those because you don't think like that, right? So if you understand how to utilize it in the right way, doing different um, putting different words in, different questions, it is going to make you a better leader. So, Doug, one of your I think you read this book by John Maxwell. It's called "Great Leaders Ask Great Questions." And to me, with AI, if you ask great questions, you're going to get great information. It's going to make you a better leader. So that's the biggest misconception. It's going to replace you. It's going to do these things. It's all about how you use it. It's something that's an assistant, right? It's not going to replace. I will say this to you. Actually, and I'll stop here. It is the opposite, because there's certain things about leaders that AI will never replace. And it's humanness, right? Because you have to deal with people. When you're on stage or you're in front of somebody, you can't have AI. You can't go to your phone and type in, "Hey, they asked me this question. How should?" That's not, you gotta do that. You gotta do that on the fly. And so AI will get you prepared, right? Better. It will make you be available more. So that's those are the things that I think people as leaders don't recognize. Frank, what do you think, Frank?
Thanks very much. No, I love what you're saying. It's absolutely right. It's an assistant, the way we see it. However, I see leadership on three levels. It's the leader once itself, it's leading the team, and it's the organization. If we talk about AI, it doesn't stop at one level. It really penetrates the whole organization. In the morning today, I got an invitation to an event from Silicon Valley, Europe, which is a European platform, tech platform, referring to Silicon Valley, which is pretty large. And they have the major block is digitalization of SMEs. And they talk about how to implement AI. And I replied, sorry, guys, an important step is missing. Because if you want to implement AI or digitalize a company, it starts top down with the C level and the mindset. That's the first thing, because AI will turn everything upside down. It gives you a new communication structure, it makes you a new organization structure. Job profiles may change. Everything, because this is, and rather what you said rightly, it's a huge potential, it's a huge opportunity. So we have to take that opportunity, not just installing one tool at the right side, but seeing how can I change my organization for the better to achieve, let's say, an exponential growth. And this starts with the CEO and the mindset and the C level, and that trickles down through the whole organization. Only if that works, I think you will have a sustainable success in understanding and exploiting the potential of AI. If you just implement AI in a certain way, it's also nice, but I don't think you will succeed on that one. Huge difference. So it starts really with the mindset, it starts with the leaders, and it comprises the whole organization. I think there's not one function, not one person which is not impacted by that one, but needs to understand in which way they are impacted and how they stay in control.
Could you two talk more practically in terms of how you actually use it and which technologies are you using? Do you use it every day? Do you start your day with that? What are some of the practical tips that you've learned by accessing AI?
So there's a couple things. As a communication tool, right? So if you're writing an email, I will use it I will ask a question about I'm having this kind of conversation with this person. And I'll put the actual situation in, right? And it will and I ask it for this is how I use it. I ask it for 3 to 5 options. And then I get to choose. And by the way, even though it has my voice in there, I've downloaded my book, there's videos, there's art. It still misses few things because I'm not going to think that way and I talk that way. So that's why I say it's an assistant because I will always do 3 to 5 choices, minimum 3 to 5 choices. And then I'll go, oh, I didn't think about that. And I'll change the words because so as a writing assistant, that's the one I use every day. There's something I'm right now answering or something, so I use that, right? If I'm looking um to to grow, like so if I'm looking for something in the future, I might ask about, can you give me situations that have happened in the past that are similar to this situation? Either famous situations or situations that they know of. And they'll come up with different situations, and it's typically 80% not exactly the right way. And I have to continue to iterate, ask more questions, ask better questions, like I said before, to get to the answer that I'm looking at. But that's why, Doug, it's a thought partner. It doesn't answer everything, but it gets me to think more critically, right? And as if as a leader, if you think if you're as a leader, you're installing something different in your organization. It's a new sales material, a new messaging, or what, and you're looking at it. So now you can go ahead and talk about what's the the next 90 days look like? What's not only look like to our customers, to, to the development. You could look at all five areas around these decisions, right? And it gives you a good idea. So when you go talk to your team, you have answers that you might not have had before, right? And so those are three typical areas that can be used. But for me, everything day to day. I don't always use it for everything, but I will tell you for especially for writing, I use it. I use it a lot.
Okay,
Right.
which technologies do you use?
So I go between Claude and Chat GPT. That's typically and for presentations I use Gamma, but Gamma now actually is in Claude. So, but yeah, those are the basic two things that I use.
Okay. How about you, Frank?
First of all, Rutherland, I love what you say, and it's exceptional if you say it helps to become more critical, because normally AI does the other way around. It takes a lot of different perspectives and consolidates that to one perspective. And most users, they just take what they see. They don't
Hmm.
have this critical view, and they lose it over time. Because remember, Google, we still have to look at three core sources. We have to evaluate, assess, and see what we are going to take. Now, AI is doing that for us. So I think most people will lose their critical mind there. So it's amazing. And you're absolutely right. That should be the way to enhance that, to flip it around. So it's really a great role model doing that. Coming back to the question of Doug, first of all, I use always two LLMs, of course, but not two American ones because they are mostly all biased in the same way. So I'm using an American one and a Chinese one. So I'm using DeepSeek. And in the Americans, I change. Sometimes also use two. Very often now I use Claude. I had ChatGPT, but as you know, a lot of people just discarded that. I was one of them, so ethical reasons. But I work with Claude and DeepSeek, and that's very interesting because I get more different answers than I get if I just stay with American LLMs. Yeah. So that's the first thing I do. In which way I'm using that? I'm using that on the one hand, if I don't understand something, I ask for it. So I'm learning, it makes me smarter. It really helps me. Second is I'm just finished a book. I was writing that with Claude as well, and that was really helpful. Uh, that really helped. And third, I'm still also investment advisor. I work with startups and with pitch decks. So what I do is I ask the LLM about pitch deck and give them an evaluation of the market competition outlook. Because if I would research on that one, it took ages. Yeah, and within 2 minutes, I got a really good evaluation, which I then not take one to one, but I look into it, assess it myself, making some more cross references, and then I decide. So it's very helpful. I'm using it on a daily basis. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's not more than per day, 1 hour. Yeah.
Hey, Frank, can I follow up with that? I have never heard anybody talk. So DeepSeek came in into vogue last year when they did all that thing very quickly. And I've never heard anybody use it like that, but you got me. I wrote it down. I am going to try it out today, right? Because
Look for it.
so Doug, one of the things that Frank mentioned is all of these tools are different, right? And they think different. They act and think differently. So that's why it's I don't know how you can just use one. I mean I guess you can, but I think you need to use two, maybe three. And by the way, you don't have to pay for all two or three. You could pay for one. Um, but that that what he just said is from a leadership perspective is what we should learn, right? He's figured out a way to get a different mindset, a different thought pattern, because basically these are just pattern recognition machines. That's what they do. They pattern, they think about patterns, right? So DeepSeek is recognizing patterns differently, right, than Chat, which I'm sure it is, and Claude. I should take a look at it, right? So I love that. So Doug, great call already. I already learned something.
And just put the same prompt in two or three different LLMs and then watch what happens, right? Because that everybody has to make his own experience on that one. But always try it. It really, it's amazing what you really sometimes see on that.
What would be an example of that, Frank, particularly between DeepSeek and Claude? Is there an example that you can cite that you were surprised at how different it was or how the results were so different?
A very simple one. A friend bought an old washing machine from Miele, which is a German famous brand, and he wanted to know whether there are references of that one because it was 20 years old, and if you should buy it, if there are flaws or something like that one. So he asked ChatGPT at that time, and ChatGPT said, "Well, I can't find anything about this special model, but Miele as such is a great brand. It's expensive, but normally they are really." A high quality. In DeepSeek, they say, well, we have direct feedbacks and evaluations on this model. Here are they. So they listed up that and said also meet a high quality, whatever. But they found something, obviously, which ChatGPT didn't find. So I was really surprised by that one. And there's a few more examples I had where DeepSeek was on the spot, but I could see where ChatGPT or Gemini was biased, especially if it comes, for instance, to school medicine and alternative medicine. While I see that DeepSeek is very open to that, while ChatGPT, for instance, is absolutely biased towards school medicine and everything which is like homeopathic whatever they say, well, this is not proven, and if it has a placebo effect, so that may help but not necessarily, and all these stuff. Yeah, and this is not what I want, actually. I want to have a kind of neutral observation and make my own mind, but I don't want somebody telling me what scientific says and what I have to believe or not.
That makes sense. There's a couple ideas, and Rutherford had suggested exploring the idea of whether AI helps you make faster decisions. I think maybe the better question, does AI help you make better decisions? Because faster, if you're spending time researching, that takes time. Ultimately, though, you would make a better decision, I think, right? Is that the way to look at it? What do you guys?
I think it's both. I think it makes you make faster and better decisions because,
Okay.
it depends on, so as a leader, depending on the organization, you make tens or 100 decisions a day, depending on the situation. If you're ruminating over a big decision,
Yeah.
right? Something that's changing the company, you're putting this in, it's going to make you make faster and better decisions depending on how you ask the question, how you question it, right? Because one of the things is thinking about the negative, thinking about, so what am I missing? Is there a point? What's the downside of my decision of this answer? If you think about just instead of just going all positive, meaning here's the situation, give me five alternatives. And then what you would put is what's the negative to all those fives? What's the downstream effect of me doing these things, right? Making these decisions. I think that in that way you're going to make faster and better decisions because you have more information. Typically, leaders, depending on industry, make decisions with 60 to 80% of the information. You very rarely have 100% of the information. You very rarely and so now with AI, you might have a little bit more information, but you can create greater context around the situation to
Got it.
make, that's why I'm saying you'd make faster and better decisions using AI.
Filling in the holes so that instead of waiting to decide because there's a hole, it fills
Yeah.
in the hole in an intelligent way, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frank, what's your thought on that?
I mean, you can measure faster decisions pretty fast, but if it's a better decision, it turns out very late, so you don't know if it's really a better decision. But basically, absolutely agree. I think, yes, you have, as Rutherford said rightly, you have more context, you have more information, and a lot of decisions are still based on a gut's feeling because they are missing information. And I think you can really minimize that. Yeah. So you really can use much more information, base it on that. You can argue on that. You can define the assumptions much better, and afterwards then come back and see whether the assumptions had been right. And all this stuff is more difficult without AI. Yeah, so it really helps, and absolutely agree. You're faster. Faster is important nowadays because things are becoming more and more speedy. And on the other hand, you should be able to make better decisions.
So Doug, you could get an answer in seconds. You could, so it theoretically it's going to be way faster, right? If
Should I decide this way? How should I decide?
exactly. That's exactly right. So you're going to it if you ask the right questions, you're gonna make faster decisions, and intuitively they're going to be probably better than your original. Now, Frank just said something that's really, really, really important. He said you still have to use your gut, and you do, because as much information as you put into that machine, there's going to be different things, right, in the environment that the machine does not know. Again, it's going on history, it's going on patterns. If you're in a situation where it didn't recognize, you didn't give it the information for it to recognize this pattern, you missed it. You still you got to say, oh, you know what? That worked because of this is one thing missing, and I'm going with that person. I'm going with this idea. I'm going with this decision because of that, right? But so it still gives you clarity. It will give you a better chance to make a good decision. You still need your gut to make a good decision. So let me put it to you this way. If you had five resumes that you put into ChatGPT and said, pick the best person for this position, would you trust ChatGPT, Claude, DeepSeek to pick the right person because of what's on paper? 20% chance they're going to be right. I mean, because when we see those same five people live and we put the data that they have on paper, as you know, interviewing, all of us have interviewed, they're different people when they talk live. So you can't make that decision. But it'll help you, right? It might help you ask what's not on the resume, what should I ask? How do you compare those to the five people? So there's lots of things you can ask, but you can never just go with what the machine says the best person to hire or the best decision. There's got to be gut. There's got to be some intuition, and it's the other thing is you have to understand about the other three, five, 10, 100 people in your organization. How is this person going to align, fit, etc.?
Sure. And going back to John Maxwell and great leaders ask great questions, asking Claude, what question should I ask based on what we know so far, and using AI in those ways,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Because at the end of the day, it can't decide who the best person is, but you
yeah,
give it all the factors.
yeah, yep,
Very
yeah.
cool. We've got about 15 minutes left. And so I encourage anyone in the audience to engage, to ask questions, to offer your ideas and thoughts. And while you're thinking about and considering how to engage, I have another question for you guys. The idea of emotional intelligence and how important that is. Wondering if AI actually helps leaders be more emotionally intelligent, presuming that it's a good thing. I do presume that it's a good thing. I think culturally awareness, emotional stability is all good. Does AI help or hurt with that?
I'll start, and Frank, you can go after. So the emotional intelligence is something that's a human thing. So the one of so here, and I said this before, what AI will not replace being human. And as a leader, some of the most important skills we have are soft skills, right? So it's these soft skills that are difficult to measure, that are so important and will drive the culture, will have people run through the wall for them, and then the emotional intelligence is such a big deal, and that's too human of a thing for AI um to be an expert at, or with just you, because you still have to be human for that. So I would tell you the answer is no. That's one of the things, and I think I mean, I'm sure this. I have to think about it differently. I might have to think about it differently, but I'm sure it can help in 5, 10% of emotional intelligence, but it just couldn't help in 80% of it. You still have to work through that. That's the human part of leadership, is those soft skills. Frank?
Yes and no. I like that you brought in this ratio, right? I would put it a bit different, but it does not. Normally, it's not designed to have emotional intelligence with people. It can't. It can't because it has no emotions. It doesn't feel the emotions. And you're absolutely right, Rutherford. It can't replace that. It can't train that. Yet there are a lot of people who have not much emotional intelligence. Maybe they grew up in a house where people were really only factual and no emotion at all, whatever, no socializing, all these stuff. For these people, I think it could be helpful, but under the prerequisite, and that was very important, Rutherford, that you mentioned that, it's the way how to question it, how to ask it, to put the right question into it. Very often, these people don't have the ability because if you don't have this emotional intelligence, you also may lack of asking the right questions because in a certain way that goes together. But this is so important. So asking the right questions again and again from different angles, from different perspectives, I think that makes a difference. If you could do that and you are lacking this emotional intelligence socializing, it could help. The kind of a dialogue, for instance, could give you arguments. You could test, let's say, a dialogue also maybe on voice to text or whatever using some additional tools. It may train a bit, yeah, but it's just a preparation. Real life then have to prove it. So I would say yes, it's possible, but really under certain circumstances.
Yeah, those soft skills, Doug, hard, very difficult. You know, This the and for me, if you think about the future, if it takes away, I'm going to say mundane. I'm just going to say, or things that if you give AI, use it in a way that helps you be a leader, but what you end up being is more with your people, you've won. You figured out the best way, because what you want to do, I've said this before, that the as a leader, your best ability is your availability, right? So if you are available more, if AI makes you available more to your team, you've won, right? That means you learn. This cat is jumping on my kid. Sorry. This that means you learn your people more, you know your people more, you're more in touch with them. You become a better leader because they know you better, you know them better. So that's really, really important. Mr. Michael Quigley just jumped on. Michael Quigley. And Michael, we're talking about using AI for the leadership, and how do you, if how is it? And right now we're talking about emotional intelligence or soft skills. And for both, I think Frank and I would believe that it's important to for it doesn't not going to replace people from soft skills perspective of leadership, but it does help. So I know you jumped in, and Michael, any thoughts about AI with leadership?
Yeah, firstly, I'm so sorry. I would be here from the hour if I could, but I couldn't miss this when I saw it was you guys. Yeah, funnily enough, I actually delivered a session this week on the human side of AI because I'm not an AI expert, but the idea was like we're in an area now in a world where it's here, and what do we do with it? There's a book that I would highly recommend you either read or listen to on thinking called The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist, who's a neuroscientist. And to take your point about emotional intelligence and soft skills, what he basically says is the left brain has been very misunderstood, and so is the right brain. And the right brain is meaning, context, holistic, nuance, subtlety, culture, all the stuff the global chamber is about. And the left brain is abstract, reasoning, analytical. And he's saying you don't pick one or the other, right? You do both. And what I love about it is he says to be a human being is to be relational. It's all about relationships, whether that's human relationships, ecological relationship, technology. There's no such thing as the singular. It doesn't exist. And so if you're really interested in that, it really, really helped me because it gave me the language to talk about this kind of stuff without sounding fluffy. So I would highly, highly rate it. Changed. I've listened to it twice and then I bought the book. It impacted me that much. So I know you love to learn as well, Rutherford. So yeah, that
Oh,
would
I
be my
love
little
that.
take on that.
Can you put it in the
Could you
chat?
say the name of the book again,
Yes, The
Mikey?
Master and His Emissary.
I see it.
Yeah.
2009. Got it.
Yeah, by Ian McGilchrist. He's a British neuroscientist. So yeah,
I'll put it in the chat area.
Please
thank you,
do.
Doug. Thank you.
Looks great. Um,
I
but
mean, what leaders make a good leader is the self-experience, the experience they have when they do it, interacting with people, seeing what happens to their decisions, awareness, learning from that. I think with AI, that's a bit dying, yeah, because the more we deal with AI, we have less time for experience, unless, as Rutherford said, if we do AI and we get more free, have more free time because things go faster and others can do that. If we use it for experience, yes, yeah, but I think mainly I think we will lose this focus on having self experience and growing from experience, yeah, as we are more and more hooked into the digital world.
we've got about 10 minutes, and so just as we begin to wrap up, certainly let's get Michael caught up as well, and maybe this is a question that can get him caught up fairly quickly, and love to hear the answers too from all of you and anybody in the audience that would like to add. Considering that AI is here, it's as you've described so helpful. How would you describe a year from now, or a couple of years from now, or just sometime in the future, the difference, the separation, if you will, of what those who implement AI now are able to achieve versus those that do not? And um, what should people do today to be one of those that are on the cutting edge?
So I'll start. I'll tell you, I think in 3 to 5 years or next year that you're going to see a greater acceptance of it. You're going to see that they're going to continue to utilize it. I think a year ago, the biggest term was prompt engineering. Like that was a big thing. I haven't heard that prompt engineering in literally like 3 to 5 months. I haven't heard anything because people are really getting better. And Doug mentioned it. Ask AI to tell me what questions to ask. So prompt engineering it's gotten so good you can do that. But the people, if when we get in a situation where they understand it's an assistant and they do it well in 3 to 5 years, that to me, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a thought partner. It's going to be uh, the companies, the people that use it that way, they're going to win. And if you have companies and leaders who don't embrace it, don't use it, they're going to be behind or out of a job, whatever the situation, because it's not something that's going away. So basically, it's like having a cell phone. You- Who does not have a cell phone? Does anybody, did you know that doesn't have a cell phone, no matter, you know, and 4-year-olds don't have a cell phone, but everybody else has a cell phone. So it's to me, it's if you think about in that way, that's what I think it is. Frank?
It's for me more a linear question. I don't do predictions because we are on an exponential growth curve at the moment. And I think few people really understand what that means. In 5 years, we are not talking about AI. Until then, we have robotics and humanoids coming into households, coming into businesses. In 5 years, we will see commercialization of quantum. That will change everything combined with AI. This is something where we cannot grasp it anymore. We need AI to translate us what quantum is understanding and researching for us. So it's just starting. And if we talk about billionaires, we come to trillionaires and valuations go in other dimensions. I think this is important to understand. So it's not about in 3, 5 years what you do with AI. No, there are much more tech developments coming, influencing everything. So I think it's important to decide and look to things from the future, like Otto Scharmer says, and not from the past, not from the linear, understanding the exponential curve, and then trying to prepare in a more flexible way and to anticipate what more is coming. And AI is just one part of that, to be very sure.
Michael?
What would you like to share on this topic?
Me. It's funny. I never make predictions because I just think who might have the authority to predict on something like that. So I'd make your point, Frank. I agree. But what I'd like to just add is what I feel is not going to change or what is going to develop. The need for authenticity and belonging that became so necessary during COVID is not going away, and AI has the danger of further shaking that up. So if you say who will embrace it and how will they strive and who won't, how they're not, the people that don't will be disconnected. They'll be disconnected from their team. They'll be disconnected from the customers. They'll be disconnected. They'll be isolated. They'll experience what's called estrangement, where you just don't feel like you kind of belong and things are a bit odd and you kind of don't know what to do, and irrelevance, which is horrible to say. But the people that do will be connected. They'll be empowered, and they will have better relationships. And the way to do that, starting now, is to be humble and to study. It's as simple as that. To be humble and study. And something else which I think is very important is that we do not lose on the exponential curve what I call the dignity of the human person. The people that we lead are put in our duty of care. And every human being wants to belong. And the danger is, I've started to see it, people start to doubt how amazing they are as human beings because they see these amazing machines and like, I can't compete with that, so I'm just a bit rubbish. And we need to protect the dignity of the human person in the workplace as well as in the family and in the social dynamic. I think that is very, very important because if you do, people feel empowered. They're like children. They're like, let's go, let's make it happen. If they don't feel their dignity is being protected, they will either lash out or they will isolate themselves, and neither is good. So I'm not a big fan of predictions, but if you say, what is important going forward, that's what I would make the case for.
I
Brilliant.
completely agree.
Thank you. Frank, you're shaking your head. Yes. I'm
Certainly.
presuming you're in total agreement. Frank, would you like to, as we get close here to the end, would you like to make any closing comments? And I'll do the same with Michael, and then let Rutherford have the final word. What would you like to share that either you haven't shared yet, or to summarize some things that you've already mentioned, or anything else as we begin to close the room?
Well, thanks very much. I think we have touched a lot, and there's a lot of expertise in here. And I think, yeah, I haven't been in events where, in such condensed way, we have so many important things to say. I fully agree on that one. Most important for me is always awareness. Because if we are awareness, if we have a bit distance about everything, we reflect and we stay in control. And that's the most important thing. And I love what Michael said, also the dignity and be aware that you may become irrelevant, which really nobody wants, if you think it's not for you. Yeah, so we have to deal with that, or like Rutherford said, with the personal computer or with a smartphone. Technology comes, it's an assistant, it's not more, but we have to use it in a smart way. We have to work with it positively, but fully consciously. That's it.
Michael, thank you for bringing in the human aspect of this technology discussion. What would you like to share? Because I took away and even wrote down, several things that you talked about around dignity,
Yep. Well,
being
firstly, again, I'm sorry that I was late. I would have been here as soon as I came as soon as I could. The first one is something that I don't like to use a lot of fear, but I think sometimes it's good to be balanced and grounded. So I say to people, don't outsource your thinking. Do not outsource your thinking. Um, there must be a cordon sanitaire, a place for you where you can just be. Absolutely use AI, engage with it, talk to it, develop your thinking, but don't outsource your thinking fully. Never do that. To keep it simple, leadership for me is creating the environment for other people to be successful. I know a lot of us are taught around that, and AI is an aspect of doing that. It's as simple as that. It's not the main aspect. It's not like that. You create the environment for other people's success. That's leadership, and it now includes AI. And for me, that's like a nice, healthy image to keep in mind rather than not seeing the wood for the trees. Just make the success for other people, and AI is now a big part of that success.
So I think about, I mean, Carol Dweck and growth mindset, right? So growth mindset with all of this is important. As leaders, we should be like, we should want to grow every day, every way, all the situation. AI plays a huge role in that, right? But like Michael talked about, then, and we talked about earlier, the human part of leadership is never going to go away, right? Great leaders are going to have to communicate. Great leaders, that emotional intelligence that Frank and I were talking about before, that's always going to be. So those things we should not fear AI whatsoever. Whatsoever. We should figure out how to utilize it. So you talked about growth mindset. And look what we learned today, Doug. We DeepSeek, which we've never talked about on here. I've never used it. I'm going to use it because of what Frank said. Because if you think about the different algorithms and how do we, we should really look at, and Doug, this is a global chamber, right? Why are we only using just, US based, AIs? Frank is 100% correct. We should, as a global chamber, think about other tools around the world, which is, I love when he said that because I thought, bam, that hit me between the eyes. And what Mike talked about master and the emissary and his emissary, I think all that to me is how do you continue to grow? How do you continue to learn? How do you have a growth mindset? And AI plays such a big role in that. Let it help you grow. Let it help you be a better leader. It's not going to replace you. Embrace it. It will do wonders if you ask it the right questions.
great leaders ask great questions.
Great leaders ask
I've heard that somewhere before. So,
questions.
so thank you, Rutherford. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Michael. Thank you all for attending today. This has been an exciting one. This is a really good one.
Yeah, good topic.
Very not only enlightening, but very practical in terms of what to do next. And so certainly downloading DeepSeek is one of the things that maybe we all need to do if we haven't already. Michael, have you already worked with DeepSeek yet?
No, I knew nothing about it until I heard about how it, come into the marketplace and just overnight change everything. So I will also go and learn and
Yeah.
check
Give
it
me your
out.
feedback. Give me your feedback on DeepSeek, your experience. We'd really love to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that then the next time. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. We actually have another event, which I probably should have put in the chat area. It's about sales, global sales, that's starting right now. And Dan Hinman from Global Chamber London is leading that conversation. He gave our conversation last month on sales, and this month, I think it's actually, it is. How does AI help sales? Oh my God. So
You're
This is
prepared
AI
now.
day. This is AI day for Doug.
I had
You're
not connected the two together until this very moment. Far too late. So there is a theme going on here. How does AI help leadership? We heard about it today so far. And then the next conversation is how it can help sales. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks
Thanks,
very much.
guys.
Great
See you soon.
moderation.
Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.